the men's WarGames match with Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Sami Zayn, and the Usos against Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa, and Bronson Reed. And we had...
What was up with these opening videos?
I didn't know what this was. I didn't know if this was a reference to something. You had each one like with a green screen and like either their catchphrase or their team. I didn't put too much thought into this, but we had all 10 people individually address us before this.
So I don't know if this was like either a play on like a prior classic War Games or Survivor Series type of video, or something like maybe related to college football or NFL or something. But like, yeah, they had these individual videos, and in concept, I really like the idea. You know, hearing from everybody talking about like who they are, but like
who is this Punk fella?
But it was really strange in that they had each person be introduced talking about what college or university that they're representing, and for the most part everybody had like a made up university. Like it was like Jey Uso, first round draft pick on Raw, representing Yeet University, and then like it was like Sami Zayn saying like Sami Zayn representing the Uso Penitentiary. You had Tama Tonga, which I thought was maybe the funniest one. He's like Tama Tonga representing University or whatever he does. But then, true to the character, Tonga Loa says, Tonga Loa, University of Texas from El Paso. Like, did this guy not get the memo? You're supposed to make up like a kayfabe, university. Like,
imagine this was all a rib on Tonga Loa. Like they told we're just gonna fuck with him. Okay, it's just you'll see it when it airs. It'll be funny. We promise.
Yeah, the people in the chat are saying it's like a Monday Night Football reference. I thought it was kind of awkward, but I also kind of loved it at the same time. So there you go.
All for Tonga Loa. Yes. So we had all of the new bloodline come out together for just one entrance. Like let's be brisk here, and then we spent like 10 minutes here on the entrances for the other team, and they were trying to read into what does this mean that they're not coming out together. And Punk walks out, and he just walks over to the cage, and he pie faces Bronson Reed, and Cole's like, "Oh, Punk, always causing controversy." And this was a dick move. I mean, the guy's defenseless, locked up in this cage. This guy just walks up and just wallops him in the face.
Well, at least this one took place in front of the stage and not in the gorilla position.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least, at the previous one, the guy could have defended himself, unlike this, but it was caught on camera, and we did see. I don't think this will be aired. The interplay here in the cage between Reigns and Punk was hilarious. Like, excellent. they went from, like, anger to, like, old married couple. Like, the memes that will come out of these two are probably going to get you plenty of online humor.
It honestly is really incredible how they managed to suddenly like build this Punk and Reigns feud into such a hot program in 2 weeks' time. Like essentially, what are we talking about here? 9 days? Like, is that the totality of like 8 days of having Punk and Reigns actually interact? In that time, they've done such a great ability to tell the story, and so much of it without even using words. Now, I love this in particular because they managed to use even the entrance as a storytelling vehicle. The Punk and Reigns simply sharing a cage told you a whole lot about the story between the two.
Jay was the last one to make his entrance, so he did his big entrance through the crowd, and we're starting things off with Tama Tonga and Jey Uso. Tama Tonga is the first to enter the structure, and dude goes Spider-Man, like right around the perimeter of this thing, and Michael Cole notes, if someone could have done that in the Punjabi prison, maybe would have kept that match around. And
oh my,
Michael Cole, you've never heard a man laugh so hard at his own joke. He thought this was the best. Then the bell rings, and Jay and Tama Tonga, I don't want to be like glib here, like did almost nothing here for 5 minutes. It was 90 seconds before they even touched. This was I'll be nice and say they were laying the foundation. Okay, that's what they did for these 5 minutes. It was almost nothing.
It felt like a pretty long 5 minutes. And,
It was.
I mean, listen. I think Tama Tonga in general has been doing incredibly well. I'm loving the hyena stuff. I find it very entertaining. They do have sort of like a stable style though, where it's like you do some attacking, do a lot of playing to the crowd, but ultimately you're not doing a whole lot of like action. And for these 5 minutes, including the unfortunate part where he went for the cover instinctively, maybe not the most entertaining part of the match.
Well, third is Bronson Reed, who comes in and he goes for the chairs. And Jay, the first chair, dude, he just whips it at this guy with all the force in the world. He follows with more chairs. The last one Reed swats down. Might have just been legit, like cool it. And they double team Jay throughout the period. And in this match, the heels do have the numbers advantage. And that was kind of the story of this whole, before the official match begins. Fourth is Jimmy Uso, who comes out, and it was a breath of fresh air. No weapons. He is not going underneath the ring. He just enters and attacks both. Because the backdrop here was it's an Usos tag match for 3 minutes against Bronson Reed and Tama Tonga. And the highlight of this was Jimmy going to the top turnbuckle, and dude hit a whisper in the wind. No one looked more surprised that he landed this than Jimmy Uso with the look on his face after landing this after all these years, and then helps his brother to his feet. Fine 3 minute period.
I mean, none of us ever felt like, somebody of Jimmy Uso's athleticism wasn't capable of pulling something like this off, but he never did in any of his prior matches. It looked incredibly clean. I did feel like there was a bit of an effort to, push Jimmy Uso up to perhaps the star power of
outside of Bronson Reed. He had like pretty much the most ambitious stunt of the match.
Yes.
Jacob Fatu is fifth, and Tonga Loa was all ready to enter when Sikoa stops him, sending Fatu instead. And Jacob Fatu, just hands down, he was awesome in this match. Yeah. He comes in and just immediately hits a pop-up Samoan by Jay, enough to inspire Corey Graves to quote Sun Tzu, "Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win." Can always use some Sun Tzu in our WarGames analogies. They triple team Jay. They just dominate this period. Then we go to the clock counting down, and Punk is ready to come out. Reigns puts his arm up, blocking Punk, signaling for Zayn to enter instead. So it's Reigns and Punk left in the cage. I'm awaiting next year when the week of Survivor Series, they're going to release a YouTube exclusive where they're both mic'd and just talking shit to one another as they wait during these 20 minutes in this cage.
They can give us a whole documentary on CM Punk and Roman Reigns sharing a shark cage together. They're fantastic. Again, so much of the story is already being told just with the two of them waiting around inside a phone booth together. How awkward of a moment is that?
This is me and Brandon from New Jersey.
Pretty much, yeah.
The crowd is singing Olay for Sami Zayn, who... Am I mistaken? Was he the only Canadian on this show?
I think we would have heard if he wasn't. So yeah, I think you're right.
So Fatu catches Zayn, and he gets saved by a Jimmy super kick, and then they do their handshake and hug. The crowd's chanting Usi. So Zayn is working with the Usos. Fatu goes for an impaler DDT on Jimmy. This one did not go so smooth. This was a blemish for Jacob here. Seventh is Tonga Loa, who comes out. He gets a pair of tables while the crowd chants for CM Punk. Zayn then does this incredible sell for a snake eyes. You've never seen someone take a snake eyes like this. Fatu does the double springboard into a split-legged moonsault on Jay as the new bloodline continue to dominate with the numbers advantage. Eighth in is CM Punk when Reigns is about to leave the cage, and now Punk just shoulders past him and enters, infuriating Roman Reigns, who has got to wait. So Punk goes underneath the ring. He grabs the toolbox. That is a callback to the Hell in a Cell match with Drew McIntyre, who they know we still haven't seen since the attack of the toolbox. And Punk just beat the hell out of these guys with this goddamn toolbox. And I don't think he ever took any tools out of this toolbox.
No, he did not. No, it's the toolbox itself that's the big weapon, And what's inside the actual toolbox? I mean, we can only assume.
That's another mysterious key that was not procured.
It might have been coins, just to maximize the sound of it without actually making it more heavy.
Well, Jacob Fatu takes a bulldog onto this toolbox, and he just pops up from the toolbox and hits Punk with this pop-up Samoan that was just great. Ninth is Solo Sikoa, and he comes in, slams the door onto Zayn, Jay, and Jimmy. So take that, Michael Hayes. And grabs a chain, and Jay is placed on top of Jimmy as Fatu lands a moonsault onto both of them. And then Reed hits a tsunami onto Sami Zayn. Punk then slaps Sikoa, and they maul Punk, all four of them. Sikoa then chains the door shut, telling Roman he's not getting in. So the last entrant, Roman Reigns, comes down. He can't open the door, and thus he has to climb over the fence to get in. And this man fights all 5 new Bloodline members by himself before the others are managing to get to their feet and back up Roman. And we get a face-off between Reigns and Punk when Paul Heyman appears and tells them to work together. This is WarGames, and we get the match beyond. And there's a spot where they did this one on television, so they tried it again. The spot where Roman ducks the Samoan spike, and he's going to go for the spear while Punk is going for a GTS to Fatu. And I'll just say that this one was the timing was not pretty on this one, and it just looked really clunky. And I feel like even the crowd saw this, because the idea of Reigns spearing Punk, you would have thought this would have like tore the house down, this spot, and it really didn't. It just felt like very awkward. The announcers even had to note that Reigns had to readjust his footing and reset, and it just was too contrived, I thought. For you could see what they were doing, and just a couple seconds off can make a big difference, I thought.
I mean, I thought, like, if you're simply watching it and maybe not paying super close attention to it, not like maybe making use of the replays, I thought it looked about as good as
the replay did not look as bad when they showed the replay. It was in real time that it just felt like very, like, almost like you hit pause mid sequence.
Pretty high degree of difficulty, I would say, with the timing of this, and again, all the gears, moving around here.
So Fatu goes for a moonsault to Punk and misses him, injuring his knee, and this guy just limped throughout the rest of the match. Reigns fights back, spearing Sikoa.
So this injury, I don't know if they mentioned anything at the presser, but did you consider whether or not this was legitimate or...
The fact that they went after the knee, I mean, my apprehension was just that, or my thought was that it was just selling. But we've seen other instances of this guy where
the selling was really good. Then, if that's the case, I mean, we'll find out.
He was really limping here.
I'm sure, like, plenty of you, maybe even watching the press conference, will have maybe some clarity on it. But
he's also a character that I wouldn't even think that they would give like some update on in that regard, like the
But it was one of the more dramatic parts of the match, I thought, seeing like how Jacob Fatu would act after this injury.
So he's limping. Then Reigns low blows Fatu and spears Sikoa, and Reigns gets placed on the table by Bronson Reed, and Reed climbs up to the top platform. So you knew that they were going to do this tsunami spot, and my God, did this look insane as he was standing on this platform. Just this gigantic individual who's probably in the 350 range, and he jumps up. Now, the timing wasn't great earlier on for the miscommunication spear spot. The timing on Punk's save here was incredible. Excellent. He comes over, and it's like this spot, there's so much that could go wrong that you aren't even going to fault if someone is too early to make the save, because if it goes wrong, it's really bad. They couldn't have done this. It was like Reed was taking off flight as Punk dives into the shot. Like, you don't even see him. And then he rescues Reigns. And this is the spot where he gains Roman's trust and pulls Punk up by the hand. I thought this was timed so well. And this is the beginning of the fall of the new bloodline and basically the elimination of Bronson, who is dead after this insane tsunami through the table, missing Reigns.
Yeah, we knew the tsunami from Reed was going to be used as a big spot. I didn't think it would be used as a storyline point, beyond just, I think, it being an impressive stunt. Instead, they used it as the reason why Roman and Punk actually trust each other now. Having Punk save Roman from this, despite Roman behaving the way he has towards Punk, was the incident that helped Roman's heart grow 3 times.
He helps up Punk. They are now willing to be on the same page for one night only. But Fatu attacks. He hits a pair of Samoan spikes, but then the Usos take him out with double super kicks. They hit a 1D to Fatu for a huge pop, and then Jimmy climbs to the top of the cage as Fatu is placed on the table. Now, they had to go through these other sequences leading to a blue thunder bomb, so Fatu had to lie here for quite a bit, but then Jimmy hits the Uso splash. That takes out Fatu, and he's gone. Jay goes to his partners, let's finish this shit. And everyone is down except for Solo as the OG bloodline surrounds Solo and each one takes him out. We get super kicks from the Usos, the haluva kick, a GTS, and then the punctuation mark, the spear, as Roman pins Sikoa in 41 minutes and 56 seconds to win the War Games. The four embrace one by one. They go over to thank Punk as Reigns looks on. And then Reigns offers his hand to Punk, who accepts it as Heyman smiles looking on from outside of the cage. And the five do their Avengers pose with the 4 ones in the air and Punk with his go to sleep sign as Heyman looks on. And Cole does make note that they have won the match, but Solo Sikoa still wears the Ulafala and is the tribal chief. So there is still that outstanding issue to do a Reigns Solo Sikoa match, which I think they wrap up sooner than later. And again, I think January 6th is another potential for that one. I don't know how much longer you want to go with those two.
So I'm not necessarily that excited by the prospect of Roman Reigns versus Solo Sikoa at this point.
I don't think most are, but I think it's one you have to do the match.
But I think Reigns finally claiming the Ulafala is like the big thing at the end of this year's story for Roman Reigns. So I would have him face Solo, and just as he's defeated Solo,
he leaves it in his will to Jacob Fatu. Oh,
I think The Rock should come in.
Okay.
At some point. And The Rock should be the one with the Ulafala. And that's how we get to our WrestleMania program, because I don't think Reigns should have that. His story shouldn't be complete until we get to WrestleMania. Back to the match. I thought this was an excellent War Games match. At the beginning of the pay-per-view cycle, if you told me that somehow this would have ended up being like a backdrop for the relationship between Roman Reigns and CM Punk, I think I wouldn't have necessarily believed it, but it's what it became, and I thought they did a great job of giving us so much like interesting material between the interplay of CM Punk and Roman Reigns, from using the entrances to tell the story to the great little arc that they created with Roman, like using the visual device of helping up every single person on his team up, with the exception of CM Punk, until the point where Punk finally earns Reigns' trust, and at that point Reigns shows it by being willing to lift Punk up. I thought that was all really brilliantly done. I think this match gave me a lot of respect for all the guys in the new bloodline. Solo Sikoa, I think we said plenty about. He takes center stage really, just without even it feels so natural for him too, because he just has unbelievable charisma. If that injury was mostly selling, he did a fantastic job of it. I thought the Tongans did really well for their role. The Usos versus the Tongans suddenly is a match I'm actually quite interested in. And I think Solo, maybe even if he's not necessarily on a Roman Reigns level, I think he's really shown advancement in terms of his charisma, his ability to feel like a genuine leader of this new stable. So, and the addition of Bronson Reed, I think, just really completes the group. So I hope Reed gets to stick around this entire thing.
After they finished all of this, they're each exiting the cage one by one, and Punk comes, he hugs Heyman, and they've got the camera right there as he thanks Paul, and Punk says, "When I need that favor, I'm coming to ask for it," and Heyman tells him, "It's yours." And And then Reigns is the last one out, and he just kind of puts his hand on the cheek of Heyman. They are helping Jimmy to the back, and coming from Neil Flanagan, who was monitoring the press conference, Jay mentioned in passing that Jimmy might have broken his toe. Okay. That sounds like an injury that might be coming out of this. And Paul Levesque had stated that Bronson Reed might be hurt. Again, it's whether that is storyline or not. That I don't know, but
it appears Jacob Fatu's fine.
Nothing with Jacob Fatu has come up, at least at the press conference. And yeah, they did one more final Avengers sign off at the entrance as the show went off the air.
So the major mystery of whatever this favor that Paul Heyman owes CM Punk, that's left to be determined. So not necessarily something we'll get follow up on right now. I don't even know if like Reigns versus Punk need to have any interactions. It seems like at this point this was just like, you know, a Marvel team up for like one night only, and then they go their separate ways eventually to meet up again. So we'll see when they might cash that in, when they might cash in this, you know, favor, what it could be. There are a lot of people that surround Paul Heyman, and CM Punk could want a favor from, I guess, any of those people. You know, take your wildest guess right now. But yeah, I thought Reigns looked excellent in this match too. You know, I'm just trying to think back from like WrestleMania, where standing in the shadow of The Rock, I thought Reigns, like, as successful as those programs were, I thought his star power kind of took a bit of a hit. In this match, I thought he was at his best. You know, his slow moving created so much aura around him. He felt like the biggest star he had to me in a very long time. And I thought his chemistry with CM Punk was really amazing.
Yeah, I thought this was a very enjoyable, easy to digest show. I think like everything you would have wanted out of this men's WarGames match, like this is going to be the heavy bloodline storytelling type of match. I think it delivered on that front. I thought there were some very good performances in the match. I continue to be very impressed with Jacob Fatu in these roles. I think they've done a great job with Bronson Reed. The Punk Reigns stuff was very strong. I'm very curious where Sami Zayn goes out of this. Like a natural is at some point down the road is like Kevin Owens is something where like here's his best friend that is teamed up with Reigns. It's the exact issue he's having with Cody. But that's in the short term though. It'll be interesting. Like is Zayn kind of linked with the Usos after this?
Yeah, does everybody go their separate ways? Do they stick together as this sort of OG bloodline for a while? I mean, I don't know. Like they all kind of had pretty successful solo careers at this point, and I don't necessarily need them to be even a thing every single time. You know, come together like when the bat signal shows up. But in the meantime, continue to tell your own stories, but maybe still have this link. You know. If you like this video, consider joining our Patreon, the Post Wrestling Cafe. Multiple bonus podcasts every week, ad-free shows, and access to our full archive. Otherwise, a like and subscribe is much appreciated. Thank you for watching.